Hey guys, how you doing? Ron Zanut here. Back with the next in the series of the build log for the Clockwork Orange. This is basically the Merlin SM8 case with a Gigabyte Z77X UP7 motherboard in it and an i7-37 70K processor. And this is going to be a water-cooled system. So now what we're up for now is to install water blocks on the motherboard. So I've already tested this motherboard in the previous video to make sure it all works, and actually you got that chip overclocked to 5.0, actually 5.1, but that was just an initial test and made sure that everything was working fine. So now we're we need to add the water block for the chipset, and I have an XSPC water block for this motherboard. It came out not too long ago and I was able to get it. And we also then got to install the, we're using the XSPC Raystorm. So I'll take you through each of those and do a quick open box, show you what's in it, and then take you through how to assemble onto the motherboard. And then once we do that, it's time to move on to getting it mounted on the tray and getting it installed, and then start working the actual the pump layout and tubing routing, and then we'll start looking at the fittings and all the other cool stuff that's going to go on it. So so let's get started with mounting the chipset water block onto the motherboard. Alright guys, let's take a look at the chipset block from XSPC. The box just calls it the, see, I put it up there for you. It is the Z77 UP7 water block. And inside the box, aside from the water block, we also have an instruction sheet on how to install it. One page color sheet. XSPC is pretty good about the instructions, nothing wrong with that. We have some thermal pads that we're going to need. And let's see, they also provide some XSPC thermal compound K2. Now I don't see any hardware in this box, so either it's in here or it looks like you reuse the hardware that comes on the motherboard. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to turn the motherboard over to remove some of the screws. So you got to remove 10 screws. 1, 2, 3, 4, holding this plate down. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So they're all the ones that are spring loaded on here. So let's get them off and then save them, because the instructions clearly state to hold on to them. You're going to need them to secure the water block. So you don't have to use any different screws. So I'm taking them off right now. Alright, so now I'm going to flip the board over carefully. Okay. Then what we're going to do is remove the heat sink and be careful not to damage anything. Alright, so these guys are on there pretty good. And I guess I'm going to use some plastic thing to pry it up. So let me look for something to get underneath it a little bit. All I did was pull on this guy a little bit. It just needs, I think, just a little bit of strength. This guy was stuck down there really good. So once I pulled it, you heard it come off, and now this is the stock heat sink. And you can see where the pads are, and there was a ton of thermal paste. You can see that. Look what they did all the way around it, covering that that chip part of the chipset there, I guess the south bridge. And then they also did the same thing up here. All right, let's get some alcohol on it. So we have thermal compound. I put a little drop on each of those, and then also on a little X and on each of the PLX chip and the I guess what would be the South Bridge chip. So I'm going to apply the thermal pad over top of those, and then the other thermal pad over top of these. Alright, so just as I'm thinking to lay this down, I have an idea. Rather than mount it so it looks like this, how's that look? Actually, look, not bad. From here, I don't know about on the camera, from here the orange is almost exactly the same. This might be a little bit richer orange, the carbon fiber, but that's the closest I can get it. I think it works. What do you guys think? I'm gonna have to live with it. Hopefully you guys like it. Alright, now I got to flip it over and put all the screws back in. I rested it on top of the box that it came with, and now I'm going to put back all of the screws. I'll just get them started. Okay, we have one block installed and custom modified just a little bit with some carbon fiber. So that's it for installation of the XSPC chipset block for the Z77X UP7 motherboard from Gigabyte. Here's another shot of it. The installation of the XSPC Raystorm block right there on the CPU. So let's take a look at what comes in the box and install that puppy on the motherboard. Alright, let's take a look and see the XSPC Raystorm CPU block. In the box we have the block. We'll take a look at that in a second. We have again some instructions. Nice, actually a nice glossy instruction. Double side. We have mounting blocks, or standoffs and posts with the springs. We have XSPC provides a little set of 2 LEDs. This block will accept a couple of 3mm LEDs. And we have, I believe this is probably LGA 2011, yeah, 2011 posts with nylon washers and washers. And then we have one supporting back plate here. We have some K2 thermal compound. We have another support bracket. And we have yet a third, and I believe one's probably for 1366, the other one's an AMD, and we'll find out how they all get used and how they get installed. And let's take a look at the block. Comes shrink wrapped nicely to protect it. And my fingers are a little dirty. Oh, here we go. The block is 2 pieces, one with the acrylic top, and it comes off. And then you have the XSPC logo plate, cover plate. But that's how I'm going to use it. So here's the block. top, bottom, copper base plate. I'll keep this on there to protect it for now. Alright, so let me take a look at the instructions real quick, and then let's get it mounted onto the motherboard. Alright, just a little update for you. To mount this block on an 1155 or 1156 chipset, this is the back plate that you need to use here, along with these 4 threaded posts, springs, washers, nylon washers. This bracket is for a LG 2011 and 1366 mount, and this is for a socket 775 mount. So those are the pieces in the kit and which ones they're used for. We're going to go ahead and use these to install it on the motherboard. Alright, in order to install the block onto this CPU, you need to first mount this plate underneath the motherboard, and that has an insulator on it and already has some looks like some nylon washers that are there, so you can take a look at them right there. It looks like they're on there, so the insulators, and already there's an insulating pad on here. So we'll go ahead and put this underneath. Right, so they're lined up with the pad right underneath the motherboard. Then the next thing you need to do is prepare these posts. These posts are unique. I've never done this before with this style, but basically you put on your spring, then your stainless steel flat washer, and then your nylon washer, and you do that for each of these. Alright, so you've got all 4 on here. Now these posts have a knob at the top and one underneath as well, and what you're going to do is we're going to actually apply the thermal compound, put the block on top of the CPU the way you want it, and then you're going to use this portion of the post to screw it in into the base plate, and then you're going to put the pressure on by adjusting this bottom one here. So as you can see, this is threaded at the top here too, so this will actually applies the pressure to your motherboard. So I'll show you that once I get it in there. So now the next step is actually to apply some thermal compound to the CPU. Alright, some thermal compound. I prefer the line method, and that may be. Alright, now I'm going to put the block on. The way the motherboard is oriented right now is actually the way it's going to be in the case. So this will be facing to the front of the case. This is the rear. Remember, it's in a reverse layout, so the PCI slots are above the CPU. So I'm going to mount the block so that it is facing down, so you can see the XSPC and the Raystorm logos. So right now I'm lining it up right over top of the where the post will be mounted. And now what I've got to do is not drop the screws and the washers on here. So let me take a different one. So what I do is I put it through here, and I guess I need to loosen these guys up. And I get these started. Alright. I'm going to get this one started. So I've got the 2 on either side started. And then you tighten up the knob underneath. So the lower knob is what you tighten up to tighten up the spring. I'm holding the top one to keep that from going. Alright, we've got the XSPC Raystorm block now assembled on top of the motherboard. And just give you a shot at the side view of it. Basically, again, these posts just get started on there. They grip into the base plate, and then you adjust the tension the pressure using these thumb screws below here. So I was able to get it on there. We'll see how well it got put down there. Here's another view of it. Now I know that the XSPC logo is upside down. If I was putting the motherboard in a standard layout case, you would see that. And then of course I could orient the block, CPU block, so you can see it. But that's not the way it's going in this case. So right now we've got the motherboard completed assembly. I'll put the RAM back in it, and then we'll be mounting it into the motherboard tray and start working on the inside of the Merlin SM8. So we'll see Clockwork Orange come about. There's a shot with the RAM put back in. Alright, now it's time to get the motherboard mounted to the tray. You got to remember to grab the I/O shield, and I need to mount the fan too that I'm putting on the back as well. So, but I need to get the standoffs oriented for this motherboard because the OC formula had a different mounting points. All right, now I'm going to mount the secure the motherboard to the tray. All right, so to secure this motherboard to this tray required 8 screws, 3 on this side, 2 in the middle, and then 3 on the other end. So now what I'm going to do is dig out the fan I'm going to mount on the back of the tray, and let's get that assembled on there, and then we'll slide it into the case and take a look. And we have the last Vortex PWM fan, and that fan actually is going to go on a PWM connector on the motherboard. So I've got a little space. I won't be putting this fan on the Aquaro. At least I don't think. That's not the plan right now. Right, and I'm going to use the anti-vibration mounts to keep it nice and quiet. So we'll go ahead and do that. We've got 4 mounts that come with it. I'm going to put them right through there and our fan, and orient it so it looks great. One of the things I thought that I'd point out is many fan manufacturers have these anti-vibration mounts. They're basically rubber screws, if you will, although there's no screwing that takes place. Basically, you're going to assume that this is the side panel, the case. I push this in through the back, and then this little thin little area right here is where the case metal or plastic is. So you pull it through so that it's secured, and then you'll pull the rest of this through the fan, and then this area right in here is where the fan actually mounts and connects, and then this just protrudes through. This allows you to maneuver this thing and pull it through. So that's what I'm doing here right now. Although one thing to note is these things will break, so you have to be careful, and sometimes you have to wiggle them through gently, otherwise you bust them off. And if you don't have, I mean, you only get what you need for a fan. They don't have extras, and I guess you can buy some other manufacturers or some bulk, but if you want to use these, you just have to be a little careful when you're pulling them through that you don't bust them off. All right, so I have all 4 of them mounted here, and now I'm going to mount the fan on the back here and pull them through, and my fan connection is right here. So I actually have way more than I need, but that's cool. All right. Pair of needle nose carefully. You should do the job. So. All right. I got one pull through, and I actually use my fingers. Not that easy. She's on there. Now I've got to tuck away this cable. My plan is to tuck it underneath the fan right down here. We have the motherboard mounted to the tray and fan mounted to the tray. Now let's slide it into the case. Have a look at it with the radiators already coated in the same carbon fiber. So what do you guys think? Think it's coming together? The orange, black, and white look good. I really would been nice if I had the right black button head screws to mount on the cover of that XSPC chipset block, but I don't think it takes away from it. So all right, now it's time to sit down and discuss now in more detail the flow, so I could determine what fittings I'm going to need, how many right angle, straight, any standoffs. So let me pull up a chair and we'll take a look at that. So now we have the motherboard in the case on the tray, and now it's time to start nailing down the actual loop and the flow that we're going to have in the case. Now, in order to do that, I think the best bet is to mock up these guys. So I'm actually going to take the top out, take the pump covers and screw them on to the top, and then mount the res. Just as a mock-up, I will do a full-up assembly of them and mounting the pump inside, all that. That'll be done later on, and you'll see that. But right now, I'm just going to mock it up a little bit further so I can position the pump and the top and the res set up in the case, because I'm afraid that it's going to be too crowded. I don't want it to be. I want to do the best job I can to mount it in there and connect up all the tubing. So this is the kit that I have here right now planned. I would like to use it, so I'm going to mock it up. We'll position it. The other thing too is I think probably a good idea to put the power supply in. I won't have the cables there, but just to get an idea of where they're going to come out and the routing, so I don't crowd too much on the power supply either. So yeah, I think that's what we're going to do, and then after we do that, we'll start talking about the actual fittings once I know the actual the actual loop order and what I'm going to connect, so we can decide what we're going to use for a fitting standpoint. And I do have a bunch of fittings that our friends at Performance PCs provided. They're Monsoon fittings. I have gone with other fittings in the past, but we'll take a look at those when the time comes here. So hang on, let's take a look at the mock-up. What I have here is the Dual D5 Mod Top Extreme. That is this mod top right here. And I also have the dual/single D5 top upgrade kit 250. And that is this reservoir here, 250 mil, with its base and O-ring. And it comes with 4 screws, 4 M4s and 4 M3s, and also a little lucite plug. 2 brackets, and also they also have some anti-vibration rubber bases. Now the other thing that you see here are 2 D5 mod top kits. The pumps are not installed. I'm just mocking this up. So what I'm going to do now is mount the reservoir base to the top of the top, and also add the 2 brackets, and then install the reservoir for now. When I get to installing the pumps in the mod tops, I'll show you that. Okay, so first up, make sure that there's an O-ring in the base, and then you use the M3 screws. I'm just going to place them inside of the base right now. And line it up. All right, and obviously this top gets mounted on over the in port of the block, and you can see on the mod top it says out, and the left hand side in this orientation was in. Then I'm also going to go ahead and mount the brackets to the side here for now. So to do that, you have a couple of M4 screws. All right, here's a view of the brackets assembled to it with the reservoir base on the top. Here's a rear view. Again, no pumps are installed in here, just the tops. And now what I'm going to do is mount the reservoir on top of the reservoir base. So here is the dual single D5 top upgrade kit installed on the dual D5 mod top, and with the brackets mounted on either side. The pump top cover is just installed, and then here's a look on the other side. So what we're going to do now is take it and put it inside of the case and get a better feel for the loop order. Alright, so we have the dual D5 top mounted with the 250 ml reservoir. Right now I just have it installed, just sitting on these rubber mounts that came with it. So it looks like that is the orientation I think that makes the most sense. We could, if you turn it around, you know, that's just, that creeps in on the ram, and I don't like that. So this is the orientation using this pump right here, or this case is wide enough. Actually, it could be done like that as well. So that's something to consider too. Well, let me get the power supply, I think, and put that in there, and let's see what it looks like with the power supply without its cables, but at least with the power supply itself. All right, we've got the power supply now installed. It'd be really nice if you could remove those labels. I might try to do that. But all right, so that's a view. And the other view that I had was this one right here. But I got to tell you, that messes with cables right here. So maybe that's the way to go. Either that or the single pump version of this kit. Okay, so here's option number one. If I use the dual pump top setup that I have here, basically the way it's oriented with the reservoir facing in the front closest to the door, the out ports are in the back of the pump top. So we'd come out of the out port, one of the two, there's one on the side and one on the top. I can come out and go down to the 360, come out of the 360, go into the Quero water block, come out of the Quero water block, and then go out through one of the access holes there, out to the other side with the tubing, and then come up to feed an in on the 480 rad, come out of the 480 rad, go into GPU 1, through SLI bridge, it'll go through GPU 2, and then come into the chipset block, and come out of the chipset block down here, go into the in port on the Raystorm, out of the out on the Raystorm, and feed the return to the reservoir. So that's one option. Now option two would be, again, using the same pump top, the dual pumps, have it oriented that way so the reservoir is in the back, have the out come out of one of these two right here, so here's the out ports, feed the in on the Raystorm, come out of the Raystorm and go into the chipset block, and out of the chipset block feed GPU 1, GPU 2, then go up to the 480 rad, then coming out of the 480 rad, go out the back again, and come down through the back, feed the 360 rad, come out of the 360 rad, come up to the water block here for the Aquero, come out of the Aquero water block, and then feed the top of the reservoir. So those are two options that I'm considering so far, and that's assuming I stay with this dual pump top. There is the option if I go to a single pump top, but it really pretty much the connection to the top is really going to be the same. So I can either go this route. I go the same, actually basically the same feeds. Just depends on where I position that that pump top. If I go the single route, I guess it would be more to the center here. So that's what we got so far. Let me look at a few others. If there are any more logical ones, and I'll share it with you right now. All right, in order to get a better feel for option 2, I wanted to see what impact it would have on tubing coming down from the top here. And so what I did is I got some, I have some Primo Chill LRT black tubing available, and I ran it from up here, from where approximately the, I mean, it fits perfectly. It comes right out to where the fitting would be. So running the tubing from there down the back and coming down, and actually comes out from behind the reservoir. So right now, if I positioned it here, the coolant in the reservoir would actually kind of block that. And coming to a point where it would connect up to the fitting going into the 360 res. So I have, the tubing looks to be just fine. It's not kinked on the inside. And let's take a look about on the back. All right, and then coming out the back, remember the door is pretty thick. It's got about a ½ an inch play in there. So, you know, the tubing will not be constricted or pinched, and it comes down nice and neatly and not pinched here. So I think that that is a possibility. Yeah, so if we have the reservoir roughly there, tubing coming out right here, down in the back, that looks like it's that's a go. That would work. And I like that better than having to, if option 1 meant coming out of one of these fittings and then taking tubing run up out the back. If I do that, it's more of a 45 or a 90-degree angle to get tubing up through, and it crosses a lot of space. So this hides it nice and neatly, and the only tubing that would be running in space would be coming from the out of the pump top to the end of the race storm, and then the only other one would be coming from here and feeding back in. So I think this layout of the loop is probably the more realistic and the best looking. So let me see if I can come up with another one to share with you. But so far that looks pretty good. And whether or not I go with a dual pump or a single, basically the same loop order is really, it doesn't matter. It's going to, you know, the source is going to be in this space in here. So in this particular spot actually is in the front, nice easy run to go there. So that looks pretty good. And then the reservoir being in the back, I think looks good as well. So yeah, let me come up with any other ones and we'll talk about them in a second. And here we have option number 3, which is the single pump top instead of the dual and the reservoir. So that doesn't take up as much space, and I think in that proportion right there looks better. Now I do have 2 rads, and I have used dual pumps in other 2 rad systems, but I think 1 pump will be fine. So I think I'm going to give it a shot like this. So what do you guys think? Thinking 1 looks good, and I can orient this a couple of different ways. It's got out either here, yeah, out's right here, so I can come around, or if I wanted to, I could come straight out and up and over. So I'll toy with that. And the other thing I did is I was able to get a multi-option top. So I plan to put an LED, one of the Monsoon light plugs, inside there to hopefully lighten up, brighten up inside the pump as well as the return still. So it'll still go the same loop order out of the pump into the block, into chipset, out of chipset to graphics, radiator 1, out down the back, radiator 2, come out, block, out of there and into the pump, into the reservoir. So what do you think? I'm thinking that looks pretty good. I think it fills the space just right and not too much with the as the dual pump top did. And next up, now we're going to put some fittings in, see how they look. We're going to check out some of these nice Monsoon fittings. Alright guys, so we finally got in a little box of awesome from Performance PCs. Got some white tubing, and I got some white tubing because I'm going to put it going from the top of the back of the radiator out the back and down into the bottom radiator right there. And I'm thinking that this white tubing is going to look nice. It's actually going to be hidden behind the reservoir pump and just go right in there. So rather than having some of the clear with the orange going through it, I think that'll be good and nice in the background, and just keep the orange in the front, in the foreground, going through everything. So anyway, that's why I've got some white. So I've got to install that, and probably, since in order to install it, I'm going to have to lift up the radiator outside of the thing, outside of the case, top of the case. I'm also going to be using a Monsoon 90-degree fitting up there, along with the 90-degree post rotary with a free center compression fitting from Monsoon. Those are the two pieces that are going to have to go back up here in the back. So since I have to lift this guy out in order to be able to get this in there right and get it all connected up, I'm going to do that one first. But after we do that, then really after I get that, I think the next thing is then to secure the pump. And I have some brackets here. These are, who makes these? These are Z2 black mounts, and they fit right on top of any 120 millimeter fan mount. So in the bottom of the cage right here, they're the 320 millimeter or 420 millimeter panels that you could mount a rad or fans to. I'm going to go ahead and put these at the bottom of it, just like this, and then mount the back pieces of the pump to the bracket so it stands right up here in the front like this. So I'll give you a better shot of that when I get in to do that. Let's see what else we got. So we got to do the rear fitting, then the pump mounting, and then I'll put the tubing through. Starting, the run's going to start from here, go into the CPU block, and then out of the CPU block, and a little jump right here to the chipset block. Out of the chipset block, and then I'll have the graphics cards right here. They'll go in. Then coming out of the graphics card, we'll go up to this port on the rad, and then coming out of the rad, like I said, back down into the front rad, the 360. Then coming out of that, going into the Aquaro water block, out of the Aquaro water block, and into the RAS. So that's the loop order plan. Now, a couple of things that I also need to add to this is, before I tube it all up, is some thermal sensors. Now, I have two kinds of thermal sensors. I have the Aquaro thermal sensors, and I don't know if you can see that. Aquaro thermal sensor, really, this is a pass-through post that you actually screw into anywhere in your blocks there, and then has G-quarter threads here, so you can actually then screw in, a fitting or whatever else you want. Now, the question is, where do I want to get my temperature points for the coolant in the system? And what I like to do is I'm going to have at least two. I'm going to have one, the temp going into the 480 rad. So I want to know what the heated temperature is going into this rad. And then I'm going to put another one coming out of the 360 rad. So let's see what the cooling does and gives me a temperature reading there. Now I can put more, but really the only other place I'd be interested, I think, is around the chipset. But I'm going to use a hardware monitor to tell me what the PC's, what the CPU's temp is, and then I'm going to use that along with the Quero software to control the fans in the system. So I think those two temperature points from a coolant standpoint are fine. I do have some Monsoon probes, temperature probes, like this one right here. So this one would just go in anywhere, and I can put them actually into the back of one of the Monsoon ports there, but I don't think I'm going to do that. I'm going to save these. I could put it here, going into, getting the temp coming out of the reservoir before it goes anywhere else, but really I'll have that from this temp, because the Quero block is really not going to make a difference, I don't think, in the temp anywhere. So anyway, so that's the thoughts right now, and that's my plan. I'm going to go ahead and put the Aqua Computer temperature sensors going into the rad and then coming out at the bottom there. So I'm going to do that. And then the other thing that I'm going to add to this is these are, Monsoon makes these LED plugs. So the LED plugs are going to be, this one, they have them in a wide focus and also a narrow. This is a wide one, and I'm going to put it in the top of the reservoir. So hopefully the light in there will shine and you'll see it with the coolant inside of the res. So I think that'd be cool. And then I do have another one, and this one is a narrow focus LED, and I think I'm going to put it in a plug and put it here to see if it shines some light directly through the coolant going over into the block. So we'll see what that looks like. I mean, those are a couple of things I'm going to play around with, and so let's get started. I guess the first thing I'm going to do is measure the right amount of this tubing. I got more than enough to run out of this rad down to that rad and mount the particular fittings on it. So let me pull them out, and I'll show you how that works. Okay, so this is the back of the rad that's hidden because of all the cables here, and here I have the temp probe, the Aqua Computer temp probe. So I'm going to run the cable out the back this way, because I'm going to have to bring it down around to the front of the Quero again. And actually, I'm just going to go ahead and snake this cable like I've snaked these guys here, so they come out at a safe place. Alright, and I have extensions that I'll be using. So we have the temp probe in. Now I'm going to use the tool to tighten down. Let's see, we have a washer on here. Yes, we have a washer. I have the Monsoon free center fitting and the tool. So I'll get it started by hand first. Now, once I have this in the system, I should be able to pretty easily install the tubing onto it when it's inside. So I'm just going to tighten this guy up really good, and then we'll just get this fitting on top for right now. Now back here, we're going to use a right-angled Monsoon fitting. In this right-angle fitting, also you need a plug. If this is the one that has the light port, or you can put a temp probe back there. But I only have a couple plugs, and this is a bits power, but that's what I'm going to put on here. And And actually, yeah, so I'll get it on here so I can screw it down. And I have to admit, I got to tell you, these rotaries on these Monsoon fittings are really nice. They really are pretty damn easy to use, and you don't have to get a tool on there. I mean, you can adjust these pretty easy, and getting it in there tight is so much nicer compared to some other fittings that I've used. I mean, sometimes it's a bear to turn to get the rotaries to turn, but this is good. I've gotten to getting it tightened down real good by hand. I'm not going to put any kind of wrench on it. I don't think I need to. So I think we're good. All right, so now coming out, this is going to be flipped over, so this is going out to the back of the rad. So this is where I'll be installing this white tubing to go out through one of the holes and then run down the back. So let me do one thing first. Here at this end, I need to get an extension cable for this temperature probe. So let me get that put on there, so it should be easy to get to and I don't have to fight with my hands behind it. Okay, we have a extender for a temperature probe right here. So we're going to put them on. These guys don't really matter. Okay. So now let's get down to putting this fitting, this tubing, right chia. So let's see how this is supposed to work. We're going to unscrew this guy. And put the centerpiece on. Then we're going to use the tool, or you can use a quarter to tighten them up. I do have a washer on there. Even though it's orange, you're not going to see it because where it's up here, but I color coded it. Alright, so we have some tubing on there. I'm going to slide the fitting on the right way and then push it on. And that's pretty straightforward. That went on nice, and now I'm going to use my hands right now to get it on. And now we're talking tubing tool. Fitting tool. That's nice. It's nice that it goes right around the tubing nicely. It kind of helps guide it. Alright, so I'm going to keep on going until it's really tight. Okay. Let's see, I think that's pretty tight. Alright, now I do have more than I need, but I need to do that so that I can then measure it and put it through to the bottom, then I'll cut it. So let's get the camera rejigged over to the case and let me install this. Alright, so here's the plan. The rad's going to come down, the hose is going to go right out this hole right here. So I'm going to have to lay them through, fish the hose through, and then we'll bring it around and we'll deal with the other part coming out down here after I get it in. So let's see if I can do that. Give me some space to work. Alright, so first thing we're going to do is put the hose through. All right, so we have the rad mounted in there, and we've got the fitting with the tubing going right out the right spot. And mounting that rad back in the top with the top plate on was a bear. I had to actually remove I only have 4 screws holding that rad to the top plate right now, but trying to put it in with the plate attached was a problem. There was an interference fit. I could not get that part of the end tank to clear the top of the case. So I took out the screws and lowered the rad in, and then got it right, and then I just secured the top plate to it again. So now that we have the rad in, I have a bunch of white tubing out the back, and I need to run it down to that guy there. Well, let's take out this res. Oh, check this out. It turns out I'm so smart. The connection coming from the Aquero is right here. So easy to service that rad. If I have to take it out again, I just pull it out of the back from behind there. Nobody sees it, and easy connection. And then I also have, this is the connection for the thermal probe that's mounted over here. So I'll run that when I need to. But now let's get some tubing into the case. Here's the plan. Okay, I'm going to run it right down here. And that's going to work good. The other thing I got to consider is I also have a flow meter that needs to be mounted, and I got to figure out where I'm going to put that. I think I might put it on the back side of the case, so you won't see the flow meter. It's not a fancy one where you can actually see coolant flowing through it. It's a Acro computer one that connects to the Aquero and gives you flow rate. But I am going to have to put it in line with a tube. So I think that's where it's going to go. Now let's take a look. Alright, now although you're not going to see this except for when I show you, but it won't be on display, but that's pretty cool. It blends right in. So the tube works fine. There's plenty of space. It won't cause any problems getting flattened up. It'll come right out where I need it. Right now, though, let me pull out the flow meter. Let's take a look and see how it's supposed to be mounted or assembled. Okay, we've got the flow meter. Basically has a connection, a unique connection that it has actually its cable. It's a large 3-pin cable that runs then to a small 3-pin that goes to the Aquero flow meter sensor port on there. And so this is what the flow meter looks like, and this is the high flow version, and it just has 2 ports in here. And let's see, I don't see on here, it doesn't say in and out. I'll take a look and see if it matters. But so what I'll need to do is put it in line somewhere, and this is as good a spot as any. And I think with the just the friction between the the 2 fittings connecting with the tube, I think it could just hang in mid-space here. And you don't put anything on the back of the motherboard tray anyway, so I can pull it in and out. So just hanging right here should be good. Yeah, it does touch, so I've got to find another place to put the flow meter, as this won't work right there. This looks good, and this will close, but with the flow meter and the pin, with the flow meter and a pin connected to it, it's going to touch. So I would have to have it oriented so that the meter was in such a place that the pin connection went through. So it's possible to do it here, but I think that's asking a bit too much. So I'm going to try to figure out where to put it inside the case. Okay, so we have the tube in. I have the back door closed to make sure the tube's being compressed the right amount. I have the tube here. It looks like no kinks, no bends that are causing any pinches. This guy's going to go fine here. I think what I'm going to try to do is hide the I had the flow meter right here. So that will be behind, I mean it'll go into here. But that's one place to do it. There really is nowhere else to run it unless that's stupid. So if I want to do it, this is the place right here. I really wish I could have done it in the back. But I don't think that's going to work. Now I gotta tell you, I mean I've been using this tool and nicking out here, but it's all nice and black. Nothing is scraped off this fitting at all. So on these black fittings, even though that I'm kind of manhandling the tool on it, they're not scratched at all. So, so again, another plus. They're pretty durable so far. So let's see now what the reservoir still fits in there. If you're looking through the window on this side, you won't see it so much, but that's not bad. Now I've got to okay. So connections still need to be made. We'll have to run the cables there. I think right now it's time I'm going to mount the pump here to the bracket. Is the next order of business. And actually let's turn this guy around so you can take a look-see. Alright, so the pump comes out. There's no pinching, no restrictions. Nice long flat line. Now I put these up out of the way so I can keep the door closed for now. And that's what I intend to do. Okay, we have. All right, let's see here. Before we do mount this, since I need to get my hands down here, I've got to put the other coolant temp gauge right here. So I'm going to remove this and then put the other Echo Computer coolant temperature sensor there. So let me take this fitting off and then we'll show you what we're doing down there. All right, before I put it on, one of the things I was considering using is the Monsoon 45 degree, but I need to get to here. And the Monsoon fittings are really nice, but they're 45 and 90 degree. They don't have the double and triple rotaries that the Bits Power one has. So for me to get this, to be able to angle it up the way I want, I need to use I'm going to use a triple rotary or double rotary, a triple rotary, 1, 2, 3 Bits Power fitting. So what I'm going to do now is, to make it easier, I have the temperature sensor for the coolant, and what I'm going to do right now is secure the Bits Power fitting to the sensor first, and then I'm going to do is put the sensor in, screw the sensor in here. And for now I'm going to try to get this fitting so it's almost as straight as possible. That's one of the beauties of this particular fitting, and I'm going to then screw this guy on. Because if anywhere that I might have a leak, it's at these Aqua Computer flow sensors. I've used them in the past. They're pretty good. The washers are critical, but you got to get a lot of pressure on them, and if you're adjusting fittings that are multiple rotary, sometimes the Acro computer sensors will loosen up a bit. We don't want that happening, especially not at the lowest point in the system here. So we're getting this guy nice and tight in here. So we got some tubing. This is not the color I'm going to use. I'm going to use clear, but I think that'll get me there, especially with some Tygon. It's nice and flexible. All right, so if I had more of these, I would put them there, but I don't. So that's the plan right now, and then we have this sensor that's going to then disappear underneath here for now, and then it will come up and connect into one of these sensor points there. Alright, so now we have the flow meter installed, the rear fittings, tubing from the top rad all the way down to the bottom front rad. We have the next temperature sensor installed, right, for the reading the coolant temps coming out of the radiators. One going in heated, the other one coming out. I think now what we're at is mounting the bracket and the reservoir. We're going to put them here, actually like this. And then we have the reservoir with the rubber mounts. We're going to secure the back one. So I need to find some screws and nuts to be able to mount this guy just like that on this bracket. So just so you see what I'm saying is, this is how it's going to mount inside the case. And then I'm going to secure these back 4 screws with washers and screws and nuts to right there. And so that's how this guy will be secured inside the case right here. So let me find the hardware to mount this with, and then we'll get it mounted. Well guys, I think that's about it. We have covered quite a bit, and as you can see, even though you have quite a few plans laid out for how you're actually going to build a system, until you actually get in there and start piecing things together, oftentimes you're going to find you'll have to make some changes. So you got to see a lot of that. I hope you guys enjoyed some of the all of the stuff that I took you through. There was a few open boxes and assembly that went on here. So I think that's going to be it. Next time we'll pick up some tubing and messing around with the fittings and getting the GPU water blocks assembled and installed and getting things cabled up. So I hope you liked this video. If you did, please press the like button and favorite if you'd like to do that as well. And please subscribe if you're so inclined. Big thanks to Performance PCs for all the Monsoon fittings, and you're going to see see all this come together here shortly in the next video. And also big thanks to Case Labs for providing the Merlin SM8 case that allowed me to build this Clockwork Orange rig for these videos. So thanks again, guys. Thanks for watching. That's it from Ron's a Nut.